gonna die.
I have no control on my side.
We going down?
Everybody embrace positions.
The way you landed that plane was nothing short of a miracle.
I see nothing but houses.
Evan, listen to me. Trim us nose down.
Plane fell apart at 30,000 feet.
We're gonna roll it.
What do you mean roll it?
Ready? Here we go.
Boy, these are the best CG-looking people, the most realistic CG people I've ever seen in a Robert Zemeckis movie, man.
Robert Zemeckis, you finally did it.
Yes.
Got it down.
Wow, man. CG Denzel could put real Denzel out of business. Boy, I tell you. I never thought Robert Zemeckis was ever going to do a live-action movie again.
I didn't even know this was his until the very end when it showed his name.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I was just like, what?
And that was about as baffling as looking at his CG characters. I was like, well, what?
Yeah. Finally, Robert Zemeckis is getting back into directing real people and leaving that CG shit alone. Yeah. The one that was scaring all the kids. I guess after Mars Needs Moms bomb, they just said, hey, man, give it up. It's a
go back to what you know. Directing living, breathing people.
Yeah. Ain't a fucking cartoon rabbit. You don't need to be fucking with that anymore, all right?
One too many chances.
But I feel like, okay, now this is a snarky critic of me saying this. If I was that kind of snarky critic, I'd be like, it's a great welcoming experience to have Robert Zemeckis back, although I think he's forgotten some things on the way. You know, because this is a great film for performances, namely Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington doesn't disappoint anyway, but damn, you look at this, and Denzel Washington just takes roles that other people... You could tell other people just they wouldn't bring that believability to it.
It's a great film for him. It's a great film for alcoholics. I mean,
you think so? I think the opposite, because I was like, man, two things. I came out of this movie going like, wow, I don't think I'm ever going to fly on an airplane again, and I don't think I'm ever going to take a drink again.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, though, it's funny you had that reaction. 'Cause my reaction was like, wow, I want every pilot that's flying my plane to be drunk as a motherfucker, just in case the scenario that they present in this movie happens, so I'll be all right.
That is true, man. I mean, the movie brings up a lot of questions about how this story went down. And what I mean by Denzel Washington bringing this in and making it believable. Listen, there's a lot of actors who would do this, and they would do a fine job with it. But there's just something about Denzel when he just feels so natural. The movie opens up with him after a bender. I mean, he wakes up after drinking all night, having sex with this fine-ass...
ridiculously hot girl.
Just a ridiculously hot stewardess, man.
Well, you said the movie opens up with Denzel. It actually opens up with a drunken titty shot.
Oh, yeah.
You see a titty in the middle of the screen,
technically,
all blurry.
Technically, it opens up with a nipple.
Yeah.
but Denzel, we see that Denzel has been on this bender, and his bottles everywhere, and he's on the phone with his ex-wife, and this is what I mean, man. He's on the phone telling her, "Oh, so what the fuck? You know, so now it's my son when you want some money." And I'm thinking, that's real. Yeah. I thought that they were filming him when they had stopped shooting. Yeah. He was really talking to an ex-wife.
It's like I didn't know Robert Zemeckis is doing found footage films now.
I love the fact, like after this whole bender, drunk, hot chick, like, oh, we gotta get to work. All right. Let me do some lines of coke so I can wake up
and seal the deal
and go fly an airplane.
Yeah, I know. He does a line of coke to go fly a fucking plane. Yeah. And that's where we get into the story of the real story of the movie. He's a guy who obviously has a problem, a substance abuse problem. And he has probably one of the most... He has a job where you need to be the most responsible person in the world. And when he's flying the plane... something happens. Now, you could say that, okay, he's drinking, and he has drugs in his system, but the plane does malfunction.
Big time.
And he pulls off this genius, miraculous move of flying the plane upside down so they get it stable again and landing it. And everybody looks at this guy as a hero at first, but then he's lying in the hospital because he is injured. 4 people died, most of it the crew. But out of 102 people, only 4 people dying. It's like, hey,
this is one of those crashes where they say like nobody should have walked away from this crash. Nobody. Right. He managed to save all but 6 people, 4 maybe.
Well, I'm sorry, it was 6 people.
It was 6 people.
It was 2 people, the passengers, and it was 4 of the crew. Yeah. And so when he lands his plane, he's in the hospital. A lot of people are injured, and they take a toxicology test on him. They know that there's drugs in his system. So the biggest thing is did he manage to save this plane because of his genius, or did he do it because he was drunk? And at what point, and he continues to drink after this. The guy has a problem. It's interfering with every part of his life. And in the midst of this, is this going to be a wake-up call for him, or is he going to continue on this decline, even though there are tons of people who are willing and able to pull him out of this mess? And that is what is that's what gives this movie almost the tension throughout the whole thing of watching this guy who, by all means, it's not the fact that they're on his back saying, "Hey, you were drunk when you took this. I mean, when you brought this plane in." It's not that. People can get him out of that. Is he gonna fuck that up because he can't stop drinking?
Yeah, the thing what really delivers the tension in this movie is Denzel Washington himself. I mean, his performance, but Denzel Washington, he has that charisma that you want to root for him. Even in Training Day, it takes you a long time to accept that he's the bad guy because you're just rooting for him. He's your guy. You love him. And this movie, he's the way it starts out, you realize, okay, he likes to booze it hard. He plays hard. But you don't really know that he has a problem. Maybe he's got a slight problem. But as the movie goes on, the more you realize, like, wow, this dude is fucked up.
Yeah, and there are moments in the movie that present him as somebody who can actually take charge, be responsible.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you know what, I'm going to stop. But, with this movie, I like that there's always something getting thrusted upon his way to where it'll change his character. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the way worse.
Yeah.
And you can't help but be on this emotional roller coaster with this character throughout the whole movie, that there's times when you're going, man, what he did was pretty incredible, yet the technical circumstances are all against him. But there are other moments where when he fucks up, he really fucks up, where you want to slap the fuck out of him for fucking up so much. You get frustrated. I mean, you really get frustrated watching his character, watching him be like this nemesis to himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is the guy, I mean, even when he's not drunk, the guy's, look, he's a pilot. He's smooth. I mean, he's banging the hottest stewardess. When you see what his wife looks like, his ex-wife is hot. I mean,
he's Han Solo with the worst alcoholism ever.
This is a guy who's probably arrogant without drinking. It's just multiplied when he does drink. So when you see him just go off and be an asshole to people, to where he's sabotaging himself, it is frustrating.
Yeah.
And it really hurts in a way.
It's very realistic because I watched this movie, gave me so many flashbacks to my dad. I was like, God damn, he nailed it. Because at times when he's got his shit together and he's all dressed up, he's got his Bruce Lee sunglasses on, you go like, man, he's a cool older dude. That he could own the world. He could do anything. Yeah. But there's times he's on a serious hard drinking binge and he's just sloppy and all over the place. You like, you motherfucker! You just want to kick him in the ribs and say, "Get up!"
It's hard not to see him as cool because they only put him in sunglasses and they had that real kick-ass soundtrack behind him.
Right.
Every scene where it's like
Stones playing.
Yeah, where it's like Tarantino came and directed part of the film. Where that's kind of the problem with the film for me. There's moments where some of the more I guess traumatic parts of it get kind of undercut by these scenes that kind of come out of nowhere that imply humor, that imply comedy to this already pretty tense moment in the movie. And one of the characters in the movie is a friend of his. I can't remember the character's name, but it's played by John Goodman.
Harling Mays.
Yeah, and that guy, when he comes into play, that's his supplier. Which I was like, this is pretty much Dr. Gonzo. This is his Dr. Gonzo to his Hunter S. Thompson, where he calls on this guy to sober him up with more drugs. And there's moments in the movie that he will come in where it becomes like comedy during some of those scenes, but they come in at odd places.
No,
there's two. If I'm not mistaken, there's two John Goodman scenes, and the first time he comes in, it is comedic. It just strikes me as odd because it's so early in the movie, and I don't know what kind of tone it has, so I was willing to go with it. It's the second one that's later when things are really tragic, and it comes in with that comedy. That to me, I was like, this is an odd fit to have this right here.
It was jarring.
It was jarring. It threw me off. Not enough to ruin the movie, but it was kind of like, I don't know about this.
Well, that's the big problem with the film is that it doesn't have an even tone through it. I mean, there are scenes that come in that are play for comedic effect, which most of them are done by John Goodman.
Yeah,
and there's some scenes that I don't even think are necessary to make that big in the movie. He's introduced to to a woman in the movie, a woman that he has sort of something in common with. She it's a heroin addict that he meets. Nicole Magan is the character's name. I don't remember where I saw that girl. The actress's name is Kelly Riley. She was in Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I said she
was married.
She was Watson's wife.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was wondering where I'd seen her before.
Yeah,
she's really good in here, and I mean, you can see her struggle as well as Denzel's, and I like that character. I like what she was trying to do with Denzel's character. She was that she was one of the few things that gave you hope for that character. And
exactly.
And you're always wondering, is he going to fuck that up too? But the way they introduced her character with this huge scene that I don't think they needed. It could have been more subtle than that. I'm not going to say what it was, but when she first comes in trying to get her first hit, at least the one that we see, it's really involved.
It really is.
Really, for this character, you need all that?
You're right. I mean, there's moments with her storyline where I was under the impression her storyline was going to be a lot bigger than what it actually was, because towards the middle of the film, you started to see less of her.
Right.
And so at the moment where her they do what they do with her character, you can't help but wonder, it's like, oh well, then why did she play such a big part in the beginning of this? I mean I see why. Yeah. Yet I thought she really didn't go anywhere.
Well, it is one of those things. Like maybe there was more for her to do at first, but then somebody looked at it and said like, no, this guy, this main character, he's your story.
He is.
You need to focus on him.
You know what it is? You're exactly right. You know what it is? They gave her too much story.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
You really. I mean, you were watching two separate movies.
You were
watching her story in his, and then just to phase her out, you either do two things: she becomes more part of the story, or you don't get that involved with her. She becomes more of a supporting character. But I tell you what, though. I do love the way Denzel put that Mac on her.
Oh yeah,
he wasted no time.
Denzel is smooth. I mean, he just woke up in the hospital. Motherfucker has a bandage over his head. He's got one eye. He's still got his ass showing through that hospital gown. But he sneaks away. He still manages to find a cigarette. He sees her on the steps in the hospital because she's there getting rehab too. Right. He's like, "Hey girl, what you doing here?"
I liked how they brought in the cancer guy, the third wheel. And I liked how he handled that whole situation too.
That is an awesome scene.
It's a fantastic scene.
That was brought up. It was funny. But see, that's a scene where it should have encompassed a lot of this movie, because who was the character that played the cancer patient? There's a scene,
I don't know.
I can't remember.
There's a scene that and we're not giving away anything.
Oh, no.
You have to see this. There's a scene where Denzel, actually, this is his first time meeting this girl, Nicole, and while they're on the steps and they're just kind of having an awkward meeting, very small talk, this cancer patient comes up, and it's just a walk-on role for this simple character here, who at first you think is simple, but is a lot more complex, and gives all this insight on all this shit with great humorous dialogue, and then he's gone. I'm thinking, now that the humor in that scene should have been the kind of humor that we had throughout the whole movie, instead of John Goodman coming in and be like, "Hey, brother, you're like the Big Lebowski."
I know. That's exactly what it was. And yeah, you can't help but think about that, because that character was extremely memorable. I mean, I still think about how awesome that character. I was like, man, if I ever was in that situation, I hope I'm that guy. But yeah, I mean, and that does set up an odd tone when you're introduced to the John Goodman character, because you're hoping that at least the humor would be at least on par with what you saw at the beginning, and it doesn't happen.
Well, I will tell you, man. I mean, there's a lot of unevenness in this movie, but there's a lot of great performances to recommend it. Even John Goodman, I mean, he doesn't fit, but he's funny.
He's funny,
but Don Cheadle, I don't think they've been in a movie together since Devil in a Blue Dress.
That's
right?
true. Yeah,
Don Cheadle and Denzel Washington.
Right.
Yeah, Don Cheadle plays a lawyer who comes in to cover this whole mess up, and man, this is why Denzel is one of my favorite actors. This is what I'm talking about. Real. When him and Don Cheadle have their scenes together, especially when they have this awkward first beginning, that shit is great, because Don Cheadle's trying to help him. He say, "Listen, you're in trouble. You're gonna go to jail for life.
Rest of your life.
Yeah, if I don't get you out of this."
Death demands responsibility. 6 dead on that plane. Someone has to pay.
I flew the plane inverted. That means upside down. You have any idea what that's like?
I do. I heard the black box recordings last night.
Oh, you heard? Saw you a pilot?
No, I'm not.
Then you don't know what they're talking about. All right, let's cut to the chase. Just tell me what it is I need to know, Charlie.
The NTSB GO team also collects blood, hair, and skin samples. An initial report shows that you had alcohol in your system.
Thank you. So that doesn't mean anything. A couple of beers the night before the flight.
This toxicology report states that you were drunk. And if it is proven that your intoxication was the cause of the death of the 4 passengers, now we're going to look at 4 counts of manslaughter. That could be life in prison.
Denzel just ain't here. He's like, well, what the fuck you doing here?
I know.
Shit.
I know.
Fucking around and write me a check for that faulty plane.
I thought once again it was like found footage where they're like him and Don Cheadle can't be in the same room together without one of them going, "Hey man, I'm trying to be your friend. Now fuck you. I don't need you.
Yeah,
you trying to take my gigs?
Yeah.
Hey, you took away my Iron Man role. I hope you know that.
You had 2 Negroes on the set like this, man. Come on now, walk on.
You can't help, and that dynamic watching them was so great. I mean, it's another one of those moments where the highlights come in, which is the acting, and I guess that's overall like the acting in this movie, the intense moments, and the fact that I love the fact that all the technical stuff about I love how they explain, look, man, sure you did this amazing fucking thing with this airplane, you saved a lot of lives, but.
That's what I hate.
But yeah,
like, come on,
you got to understand. We're gonna blame these people. They're gonna look for somebody else to blame, and it all comes down to you. I mean, they're looking at you are under a microscope right now, and that's where all the tension mounts up because you, as the audience, you know that.
Yes.
So when Denzel's fucking up, oh man,
yeah. It's like, look, okay, I've pulled everything. I can get you out of this. Everything can work out. All you gotta do is not drink. Hey. I don't have to drink. I ain't gonna drink. And next scene, he's drinking. You're like, dude, please help me.
That's part of the fun with the whole later part of the movie. I mean,
like,
you're just wondering, oh
whatever
God.
Flaws, you say like the performances are great, but the performances are what the whole movie is. And the story arc, and just the like, will he or won't he, or can he get it together and get it out, and just how like I said, realistic, and how much he pulls you along. And Denzel Washington, he is like one of the greatest actors, and he also has so many movies where he's like, he's got it set to 6. He's in there. He's kind of not necessarily sleepwalking through a role, but it's like
he's on cruise control.
Yeah, it's cruise control. It's like a low level movie. You've seen him do it all the time. And you might see a trailer for this and think, okay, it's him doing the same thing again. It's like, no, this is actually one of his standout performances of his career.
This is one of his darkest roles since Training Day.
Yeah, and it's great when he plays a darker role because you keep expecting something different from him, and he keeps surprising you over and over.
Well, no, I would say that there are 4 things in this movie that really stand out amongst our complaints. One is the performances, as we mentioned. The other is Denzel, because that's another performance almost separated from everybody. The drinking that we talked about, just seeing him struggle through the whole movie takes you through all these emotions of anger, suspense, and sadness for this guy. I mean, through the whole time, you're just being brought around to all these at different times. And I will also say the beginning of this movie is pretty incredible.
No, it really is. It's a spectacle upon itself. You get it is one of those moments where, like, man, I hope I never have to deal with any of this kind of shit on a plane.
My jaw was clenched so tight, and that scene goes on forever.
Oh, it's an amazing scene that just this. I would just say this because I don't want to give too much detail away, but there is more to that scene than you would ever imagine.
Yeah, it's almost like when people say you have to watch the first 10, 15 minutes of Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Because it's so intense. This movie has that moment.
We hear about him turning the plane upside down, but just think for a moment. Everything that's involved with that. Think of all the physics that are involved and the danger that's involved with flipping a plane over. Okay, it just ain't luggage that's going to be flipped about.
That's why I'm down with you come fly the drunken skies with Denzel Washington because I at least there's a good 90% chance I will make that shit. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but remember at the end of Return of the Jedi when Lando Calrissian was going through the Death Star. You know that little Asian looking motherfucker right next. That motherfucker was drunk as hell.
That's why he was talking like that.
Yeah.
Hey, you ready?
Yeah. That's why that motherfucker was laughing throughout that.
Did you notice how wet his lips were through the whole thing?
Yeah, I know.
He had a flask. He was taking sips.
I know.
What you doing over there?
You guys, that just makes me scared. The next time I get on a plane, a pilot's going to be like, "Well, I had a few. Let's roll this baby and see what happens."
Hey,
look at me. I'm Denzel.
we're not in danger.
I know, right? We'll be all right.
You don't have to flip this shit. You done killed about 5 people. Turn this shit around.
I know.
And that was the other thing. I'm looking at this. It made me mad looking at that when he was drinking before I get on the plane. Because I was like, I fly too fucking much to see this shit. I was like, I really want to go. I got to fly in 2 days. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to the pilot and ask him, you drinking? Who the fuck are you? I just saw Flight. That's who I am.
Man.
Who the fuck are you? Are you sober?
You know, I just got off a couple days ago. I was on a plane and we hit an air pocket where it's the first time I thought I was going to die on a plane, where your heart is like, you're dead. You're going to die.
Yeah.
After watching this movie, I was like, God damn, I'm a pussy. You know, I was like, no, this is. Yeah.
I fly on average once a month, and I still can't get used to turbulence. I get so mad when I feel that, and I'm the one. I know. And there's some kid next to me who's just sitting there like, yeah.
I was telling him on the. I was telling Leon on the plane when that moment happened. I grabbed the seat. My heart's like, oh, and I hear this kid go, "This is fun."
Kids love that shit.
Yeah, and I'm turning around looking at that kid. I was like, "Motherfucker, you're gonna die."
I know. I remember that happened. I'm clutching my heart. And the kids are there looking at their head. I'm just looking at them and say, "Shut up."
Yeah, kids jumping on the seats. Yeah, this is fun.
So fun. I would like to say that from now on, take all that alcohol that they're serving on the plane and get that shit to me. I'll take care of it for you. I just want to make sure that the pilot gets none of that.
Be doing loop-de-loops.
I gotta say, Korey, watch this movie. It did make me worried for you.
It made me worried for me.
No. I mean, because I saw Denzel Washington as possibly you in about 10 years.
Man.
I was like, I hope Korey's watching this closely.
Listen.
You still walking around trying to be cool, picking up young chicks, and like, hey, I'm just drinking like a playboy. And we're like, Korey, you're throwing up all over yourself, man. Get up.
I really hate the number of movies that I see today where it reminds me of me. Where it's people that have extreme problems. Looking at what's that fucking Fassbender movie? Shame and Flight. You know what? Between those two movies, I have a lot of shame and one Flight. I'm like, God damn, this is not a good thing, man. That's how these movies based in my life. But you know what, man? This is another movie where it's hard to recommend it as a whole, but you cannot say to people not to see it because there are so many great things to see in there. And the other thing is, it's a very melodramatic movie too. It's a very melodramatic movie that, in some points, I'll put it this way: I like the movie. I like the movie a lot. It's probably one of my favorite movies this year, but it's a story that I feel like if I had seen this done as an independent movie, this is Hollywood's version of a character piece where they got to make things bigger than what they need to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, that airplane crash was amazing, but I feel like Hollywood feels they have a grand actor. They got to throw grand bucks at making it a spectacle when it's a quieter piece than that. And I didn't need everything that I saw in there that was bigger than Denzel himself. I mean, it just took away from it. But I still think there's a lot of amazing things in there to say that this is a high matinee.
I'm almost right there exactly with you. And honestly, the flaws that it has, they don't bother me that much. I mean, everything else was so fantastic that it makes me those other things go like, okay, look, as a critic, I have to point this out. And it ruffled me a little bit, but I quickly got over it. If anything bothered me more than the most, it's that other character, the female character who had such a story in the beginning that went away. Because it's like, I kind of wanted to see her come back in, how this would have affected things. Yeah. But I get it. I really love the movie, but I'm right there with you. It's almost a low full price, but I would say a high matinee.
Yeah. And it's one of those things I was still debating when we were getting ready to do this, like, man, is this really a full price or a matinee? Because there's so many full price moments, so much so that they outweigh the uneven moments of it, like with the comedy and the John Goodman character. Yeah. If they had their own separate movie, they would be great. But, mixed in with the just the traumatic, moments of this film, you can't help but feel like you were on that fucking drunken ass plane going from, up and down going, all right, set up the tone, please, this movie. How am I really supposed to feel? You're making me like really want to like really feel for this guy. And then you make me want to go, well, he's going to be all right because he has his friend John Goodman, like making everything better. I don't know.
He had his magical, mystical Caucasian.
Yeah, I know. That's what he had. And I think that's where it comes into play with the whole idea, like you were saying, Korey, where it feels like a Hollywood movie because they're thrusting upon you this awesome Tarantino soundtrack, you know, at random moments where I'm like, okay,
big budget, what is that?
Unnecessary.
I was about to make up a word, unnecessity. I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to make it right now.
hey, might as well go for it. Yeah, I'll put it in the Urban Dictionary.
Non-necessary.
Non-essentials.
Yeah,
Non-essential. Non-essential things.
Big budget Hollywood elements in there you don't need.
And you really don't. And I think people watching it will understand what we're saying about it. But I mean, it is really a full-on matinee. Because I mean, I still got the tense moments in this movie are very tense. You have to see this fucking the whole first 15 minutes of this movie. The airplane scene is incredible. But Denzel is about as incredible as he can possibly get at this moment. I don't know how much more ass kissing I can do to really make his ass shine anymore.
I can't think of anybody who I wouldn't recommend it to.
Oh, Denzel, is that good enough?
When you see a face in his ass cheeks, but I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, I can't think of anybody I wouldn't recommend it to. I mean, it's good enough that anybody I told, hey, go see this, I wouldn't worry about them coming like going,
yeah,
you like that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Man. Not at all. There's even some actors in there who weren't in there that long. That Denzel just brings. He elevates everybody's game. Bruce Greenwood.
Oh yeah.
As the head of the pilots union who's coming in.
Man.
He was great. He's like, man, I'm the only fucking guy in your corner.
Yeah, he was great. That guy was awesome in that movie.
Yeah. I tell you what, after this movie, I would hate to be Denzel on a flight somewhere because if that flight starts fucking up, especially if it starts going down, everybody on that flight's gonna look at Denzel like, hey man, he's gonna
help us.
What the fuck y'all want me to do?
I just go like, well, buy me a drink.
I know. I can see him putting on his sunglasses and walking all slow to the cockpit. Hey, Denzel, can you hurry it up?
Hitting on your girlfriend before the plane crashes.
Yeah.
Move out of the way, co-pilot. Now y'all know I don't know what I'm doing here, right?
I'm gonna land this plane with coolness.
Yeah.
You saved my mom. I want to talk about the days leading up to the accident.
This thing is so heavy it's killed me. I drank the night before the flight.
Does Whitaker know he's going to jail?
My clients don't go to jail.
It's a lie, Whit. It's a lie.
I'm trying to save your life.
What life?
We're gonna stop forever!
Wait for impact. No one could have landed that plane like I did.